at them Broken Bow fans. Hey, they're going crazy out here. I've never seen anything like it.
Hey, welcome back. Another edition of the Southeast Beast on the air. Skip Copeland alongside Chris Chandler. This week we recap the Savages' 55-13 win over the Sallisaw Black Diamonds, and we'll take a look forward as well to the upcoming game this Thursday night, a game with great ramifications for the District 4A4 title. The Poteau Pirates will be in town this week. But first, let's take a look at what happened this week, Chris. The Savages jumped out early and really just had their way with the Black Diamonds in this 4A4 contest.
Yeah, Skip, they did what they needed to do. You worry about it coming back against an obviously weaker opponent, a winless Sallisaw Black Diamond team that you play at home. And so you think, well, maybe the intensity won't be there. On the opening kickoff, it just kind of fell in between lines. Sallisaw got what was basically an onside kick, even though it was kicked about 20, 30 yards into Savage territory. But the defense held, forced a 4 and out, and then the offense came, and after one or two plays to start off, little mishaps, got firing on all cylinders and drove down the field, stuck it in there, and really looked good doing it.
Yeah, the Savages, once they did start to click on offense, really didn't have any trouble against the Black Diamonds. You could tell right away that the Savages were the bigger team. They looked stronger up front. We looked faster on the field. The Black Diamonds really, for their part, do not look like the Black Diamonds of old. They look like a very young football team, very inexperienced team, and they played like that as well. The Savages jumping out quickly. Cam Rogers, after scoring the last 2 touchdowns of the game the week before, he scored the first 2 touchdowns of the game this week. So he had 4 in a row for the Savages over those 2 games, and the Savages really did pour the gas on the fire there in the first quarter.
And hand a lot of that credit to the offensive line. They opened up some huge holes, most specifically one of the touchdowns down there in the first quarter when Rogers went off tackle, and there was about a 6-yard gap in the end zone where there was just no white jersey, no defenders at all, and he just kind of waltzed in there. Rogers is a straight north and south. I know it's east and west at Memorial Stadium, but what you call a north-south runner, kind of just runs straight ahead. But actually against Sallisaw, because of the offensive line play, was able to zig and zag and cut through some big holes.
Yeah, he really was. And the Savages offensive line, as you mentioned, really doing a great job staying on blocks, keeping the defenders on their toes in terms of they really couldn't touch Broken Bow, either the quarterback or the running backs. We really were getting big chunks of yardage on our plays and moving the chains pretty easily.
And, some of that, I mentioned during the game that Alan Kite, his first start last week, and then this week, his second, did an excellent job. But also, they actually have more personnel. They're a little deeper. You've got Reese Hoover and Kaplan Burris there, along with Jalen Bahena, who was back in. He was not there last week, but he was this week. And then that allows Zach O'Donnell to just play offensive line as well. O'Donnell was starting as a defensive lineman for the first 3 or 4 games, and it makes a huge difference when you're hitting those big boys if you can actually have a little depth and have people that don't all start both ways. And it showed with the results of Savages moving down the field, a lot of running. They had great passing and good protection, but also were able to establish a run game.
Yeah, they were able to run the ball, and we know that's probably what they wanted to do against Sallisaw. They didn't want to show too much on film to Poteau, although they've had to put most of their offense out there earlier in the year. Carl Cooks went out last week with an injury. This week it was Alex Lindley that stepped into his spot, and he really showed up. He really, he made some really great routes, hung on to the football, took a couple of good hits, and got yardage after contact. I thought he looked really, really good replacing Cooks out there at wide receiver.
Boy, did he ever. Just great routes, and literally the first pass he caught, he sort of was at the line of scrimmage. It wasn't really a receiver screen. There was only one guy out there with him, but made a move and then just ran over a defender. And then at the end, delivered the blow to get a first down for Broken Bow. And then caught another one near the end zone. In the second quarter, going back the other way, caught 3 or 4 on that drive, including a touchdown pass, and just looked great doing it.
Really did. And Christian Brumley has always looked like the poised senior leader that he is. And He stood in the pocket, stood tall, found his receivers, got the ball spread around the field, and all the receivers did a good job of catching the ball, moving the chains, keeping the offense rolling. The Savages moving downfield and capitalizing with touchdowns, putting it in the end zone on each of those possessions. Really, it was never, after the first or second possession, the game was never in question.
And you mentioned Christian Brumley, and one play in particular sticks in my mind. It was in, I believe, the second quarter, or they were driving back toward the west end zone. But he was actually flushed out of the pocket and then had the presence of mind to roll out and then keep even with the line of scrimmage, waved his receivers off downfield, and then threw a strike, hitting Jace Roberts right along the sideline. Just looked, as I believe you mentioned, texted me, looked like John Elway. Really did. A great game by Christian Brumley.
Yeah, the hit was flashes of John Elway for me, because I was a huge John Elway fan, back in the day, and he did that a lot. He would scramble and then he would motion to his receivers to which direction to go, and then he would loft the ball out there to them, and that looked like Christian Brumley there on that particular possession. The Savages really doing a good job of spreading the ball around. I mentioned that a moment ago, but I was really impressed with how they moved the ball around on different routes and had people open all over the field. Now, some of that's a product of playing a lesser opponent defensively. I don't know that the Pirates are going to be quite so easy to pick on as the Black Diamonds were this week.
Well, let me clarify that for you. The Pirates are definitely not going to be as easy as the Black Diamonds to pick on like that this week. So Savages have their, work cut out for them. But it was an all-around effort. And, we talked about the offense because that was, that was something that wasn't, I guess, boring, because it was a boring game for the Savage defense in that it was 3 and out almost, or 4 and out almost every time. In fact, when we actually had a turnover on that opening kickoff, and they had the ball at about the 40-yard line, could not even get down inside the 20 or inside the 25 for field goal range. The defense just did an excellent job. First team pitching a shutout until the second half, when some of the second and third team defenders got out there.
Yeah, it was good to see a lot of the young players get a chance to play in the second half, and played actually most of the second half, if not all of it. We saw younger players, sophomore players in particular, getting on the field, doing a good job as well. I'm impressed with some of the young players, some of the play, particularly on the defensive side of the football. I thought we were aggressive, physical. The young guys wanting to play, wanting to get out there and get scrappy, and I like seeing that.
And any coach will tell you that there is nothing like a real game to get experience and get those younger guys used to playing football. It's completely different. I know it's the same, the same routes, the same reads, the same tackling, and well, it's not the same tackling because they usually go about, you don't want to knock your own guys out, but it really is in a real game situation. You really do get a feel for the game, and that's good news for the Savages. So and that may result in a little stronger depth going down the stretch.
Yeah, they were able to get in the end zone a couple of times themselves. Again, the final score this week, 55 for the Savages, 13 for the Black Diamonds. And it's been a minute since the Savages put 50 or more on the board. This was one of those weeks that they were able to do that. The offense rolling really, really well. I don't have the statistics, but, easily they were 400-plus yards offensively. They moved the ball down long distances down the field in big chunks of yardage all night long, particularly in that first half. So the Savage offense really clicking on all cylinders and hoping that, we can keep that going next week as the Pirates roll into town this Thursday night for the big showdown. District 4A4 really is kind of on the line here, although there's still a lot of football to play. But these two teams are at the top of the division, and, they face each other this Thursday night. Chris, let's talk a little bit about the Pirates and Coach Werner coming back into town.
Well, it's always a thrill against a former coach, or in this case, the winningest coach in Broken Bow history. And the Pirates, as usual, are top ranked. In fact, I think they're probably going to. The AP poll hasn't come out, but they'll be second or third this week as they come down to Broken Bow. They beat a good Hilldale team just 30-7. And really, we actually watched a little that game as it was on Friday, not in person, but over the interwebs, and Poteau looked pretty dominant.
They did. Yeah, I thought they looked really good up front. It's going to be a challenge for the Savages. We've looked good all year up front on both sides of the ball. We've looked quite a bit better on defense early in the year, but I think the offensive line has caught up some now. And so it's going to be a real good game in the trenches with these Poteau Pirates. They like to run the football. They run that wing tee with a lot of motion, a lot of misdirection. They like to power sweep out of it as well. And so that's going to challenge us on the edge. The cornerbacks are going to have to step up, turn the ball in, and the safeties and the outside linebackers are going to probably make a lot of tackles this week. It's going to be a real physical football game.
Yeah, and you said they love to run the ball. In fact, during the game last week, their offense ran the ball 63 times, 63 snaps that they ran on offense were running plays. That's just, most people don't get 40 in a game, and that's phenomenal. The thing about them is they are challenging because it's very basic. I mean, they run the wing tee, they come out of the huddle, they huddle really close to the line of scrimmage, and they sprint out of the huddle to the line, and then they just depend on their line to block and their backs in a lot of misdirection. At least that's what we saw against Hilldale. And the Savages are going to have to try to get some penetration in that backfield and mess up the timing.
That's true. Technically, it's the single wing. I guess I called it the wing tee, but it's the single wing offense that they run. And they do run that slot in motion a lot. So you see him moving on both directions, depending on what their play is, obviously. And the Savages are going to have to keep up with things there. They've got a great running back as well. We didn't see him this week. I don't think he played at all. I don't know. We weren't able to really kind of tell whether Collins was in the game or not. But we know the damage that Dax Collins can do when he's in the backfield, and I fully expected him to be in the lineup this week if he's healthy.
That's what the reporting says. Dax Collins was not. He did not suit out last week, or at least, did not play a snap. And they have some pretty good, backup running backs as well. And not just backup, but, the slot back's good. They'll send that other guy that's, I guess, a power back in there. But one of the things Broken was going to have to watch is the Pirates love a hard count. And I don't mean like hard count in fourth and short or third and short situation. I mean, like 3 or 4 times per series. They sprint up out of the huddle to the ball, and then they give that hard count. And because it's an up-tempo game, I mean, they ran 63 offensive plays that were runs. It's up-tempo. The defense is going to have to be on their toes and react to the ball and not the count, because you can give a lot of yardage up if you jump off sides 5 or 6 times against these guys.
Well, we've shown ourselves to be susceptible to that as well. Earlier in the year, it's been better. As I mentioned, we've improved considerably, the Broken Bow Savages, from week 1 through week 6. One of those things was that snap discipline. We were giving up a lot of easy yardage on those pre-snap penalties early in the year. We haven't seen a lot of that recently, and you're right. They're going to be tested this week. The Pirates like to do that. They like to quick huddle and move quickly, through their offensive schemes. The Savages need to be on their toes. We need to be physical. And, we just need to key on the right people, because that single wing is not that complicated. There's only a few things they can do out of it, but they can do them really, really well. And it causes misdirection. It causes confusion up front. The linebackers are going to have to stay on their keys and be right there where the ball is at, when those plays develop.
And Hilldale had some success actually in a goal line defense, stuffed them twice inside the 5, and then Poteau comes out, they fake to the fullback and sent the fullback to the corner and threw him a pass. So they can pass. They're not nearly as good a passing team as Broken Bow, but they are an outstanding running team. And you're right, they're going to have to be on their toes defensively. Offensively, Broken Bow, we may see a very up-tempo game on both sides, because the Pirates play a 4-3 defense that's with a strong side and weak side. So not just lining up, they're switching to see which is the strong and weak side, and that makes them a little susceptible to an up-tempo game.
It does, and I see them, in previous games, pull that third linebacker and put the other defensive back in there, and it could even be the same player, and they just are moving him position-wise to look more like a 4-2-5 type look against a spread offense. So the Savages will have to work to get open, but to me, it looks like those inside routes, those quick slants and quick posts are open, maybe even that slip screen from the outside with a healthy Kyron Whitfield. The Savages could actually scare the Pirates quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be I'm really looking forward to this game, because it matches Broken Bow's strength defensively, which is those front 7, just excellent front 7 guys, against Poteau's strength, which is their running game. And it's going to be one of those, a movable object meets a irresistible force, and we'll have to see which one prevails on Thursday.
Now, the only 2 unbeaten teams left in the district, that's in district play. Both teams have a loss on the year, but they were in non-district play. So This is for first place. Whether it's for the district championship or not, there's still some teams left on the schedule that'll have something to say about that. We still have to play the Hilldale Hornets, and we still have to play the Ada Cougars, and the Pirates also still have to play the Ada Cougars. But it's a big game, and the Savages, I'm sure, will be ready. It's a 7:30 kickoff this Thursday night in Memorial Stadium. The Pirates coming to town off of their big win. They won 30-7. One more thing I would comment, though, on this, but in fairness to Hilldale, they did not play that badly. There were several occasions, Chris, and I know you noticed this as well, when the Hilldale offense would get on the Pirate end of the field, and we would see that holding flag come out and move them back, and the down and distance changes all of a sudden in those situations. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but it certainly was a pattern that we saw all night long. Every time Hilldale got on Poteau's end of the field, they were holding somehow. So it's one of those games where Hilldale might have given them a far bigger challenge had it been a home game for the Hornets rather than one for the Pirates.
Yeah, no, in the immortal words of Dorothy, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. But the Savages are defending their home stadium, defending their house, and we're going to see how that works out on Thursday.
Around Class 4A this week, there were some surprises in the district, along with the 4A4 games that we spoke of, the Broken Bow game and the Poteau game. We also saw the Ada Cougars handle the Medill Wildcats. We weren't sure. I thought that game might be pretty evenly matched. It was not. Ada jumped out quickly, poured on the fuel, and wound up with a 47-14 win over the Wildcats. So the Wildcats now are still winless in District 4A4, and they're a much better team than what they appear to be in terms of their record anyway. I think they'll show that as they get now a chance to play some of the lesser teams in the district. They have Fort Gibson still on the schedule. They have Sallisaw still on the schedule. So I think you'll see Medill win some games, but right now it's an uphill battle for them to find that playoff position, particularly with regard to that loss to Ada this week. 47-14 the final in that one. The Stillwell Indians got another win, a pretty easy victory for them as well, 52-33. They defeated the Fort Gibson Tigers. They will move to 4-2 overall on the season. They have one district loss themselves, and they're still in the playoff hunt. They're still on the schedule for the Broken Bow Savages ahead as well. So we'll keep an eye on the Stillwell Indians. Some teams that normally we don't talk about in terms of losing all lost this week. Clinton lost a home game, which is, I mean, you can count on one hand how many times that's happened in the past 10 years probably. But Weatherford came into town and defeated the Red Tornadoes, and, they're fighting now for life. Out west, Clinton is. They were ranked, way up early in the season. Now they've fallen down in the lower part of the top 10 with that 20-point loss, 30-10 to Weatherford. Tuttle lost this week as well. They were ranked number 2 by most polls, and they took an upset. Blanchard came into town, beat them 30-28, I believe was the final in that one. And then maybe the most surprising thing to me in Class 4A this week, the Cushing. Unbeaten on the season, and obviously we knew they were a really good football team, but when you go 42-0 against Wagner's Bulldogs, you've proven yourself to be a contender for the gold ball. We got to keep an eye on the Cushing Tigers.
Yeah, and that's they're in the western half of the bracket, but that's something that I guess one of the goals you could say is that we want to play them, because if we do, it's going to mean we're at the probably semifinal or final level. Boy, that is impressive, though. Wagner, of course, has the longest winning streak in the state of Oklahoma, and many state champions there under Del Condon just got not only dominated but shut out.
Yeah, they just got throttled. I mean, it really was it was 21-0. I think the first time I checked on the score, it was already 21-0. So Cushing was really, really impressive this week by all accounts. The people that I've talked to that were at the game were all extremely impressed with Cushing. So I would say right now they're probably the odds-on favorite to win the 4A title. So the Savages will have their work cut out for them. Savages got work to do in this district, obviously, but that playoff run, it's going to be a challenge in 4A this year as well. But the good news is with these teams dropping and falling and teams beating one another, it gives you, an opportunity here to look at it and say, hey, this field's pretty wide open. Everybody has a chance. If you have a good team, and the Savages certainly do, you've got a chance to go pretty deep in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, this is the most important game of the season thus far for the Brokobo Savages. For, as you said, the top spot in District 4A4. One of the things that might play, might not, is the fact the Savages have an extra day of rest. They played on Thursday, and the Pirates played on Friday, so the Savages do actually get an extra day to heal before Thursday night's game. And boy, they're going to need it against the Pirates. Brokobo always plays physically, and we hope that continues on Thursday.
Well, it's a 7:30 kickoff in Memorial Stadium. The Savages and the Pirates. We welcome Coach Greg Werner back to town. We hope to see a full house there and a noisy crowd supporting the Savages. Both teams unbeaten in district. There will only be one unbeaten district team as we move forward after Thursday night. Savages and the Pirates, such a big matchup. We hope to see you there. Until then, I'm Skip Copeland.
And I'm Chris Chandler. And remember, folks, once a Savage,
always a Savage.